Happy Thanksgiving from us over at Fantrax. Here are 3-player spotlights for today's games. David Montgomery faces the Green Bay Packers, who allow the 11th most fantasy points per game to running backs and the 5th most rushing yards per game this season. After missing 2 games, Montgomery returned to the lineup in Week 10 following the Week 9 bye. Monty in Week 10 rushed 12 times for 116 yards and a touchdown. Then in Week 11, he rushed 12 times again for 76 yards and scored another touchdown. He scored 17.6 and then 17.7 fantasy points the last 2 games, playing 38 and 40% of the snaps. Jahmyr Gibbs out-touched Montgomery 17-12 in Week 10, but then the 2 split touches with 14 in Week 11, with Montgomery out-carrying Gibbs. Montgomery has scored 8 rushing touchdowns this season with 3 weeks over 100 yards rushing. And fun fact, via StatMuse, David Montgomery has 124 carries for 575 yards and has scored 6 touchdowns in 8 games against the Green Bay Packers in his career. Game 2 today, Dak Prescott faces the Commanders, who allow the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks and the 3rd most passing yards per game this season. It was a down Week 11 for Dak Prescott, but prior to that, he was on fire the prior 4 games. He finished as the quarterback 1, quarterback 2, quarterback 3, and quarterback 1, going backwards to Week 6. Dak has finished 3 games with over 300 passing yards. He had 404 in Week 10 and 5 games with multiple passing touchdowns. Prescott is currently 9th in passing yards, but he's tied for 3rd in passing touchdowns on the season. It's a smash matchup. Let's talk Christian McCaffrey, who, hot take, is good at football. He faces the Seattle Seahawks, who allow the 6th most fantasy points per game to running backs, and they are middle of the road to quarterbacks and wide receivers, so he will be emphasized in this game today. CMC has finished as a top 6 fantasy running back for 4 straight weeks and has been a top 7 running back in 8 of his 10 games played this season. He ranks 2nd in carries, 2nd in targets, 1st in red zone touches, 1st in rushing yards, 2nd in receptions, 1st in receiving yards, and 1st in total touchdowns this season. And most significantly, 1st in total fantasy points. Look for these 3 guys to smash in their matchups for both fantasy football and DFS on Thanksgiving. Enjoy the day with your families.